the Rumble slips on through, either of those very easily first pickable.
Ari effectively denied last ban from JDG. We'll see what it is that Top Esports want to target out with their last ban. Because ultimately, things like the Varus were taken out of contention. Jarvan also really good. We did talk about how that's 100% win rate for JDG right now. And a great elimination.
And it is going to be that Rumble locked in. I mean, anytime that the Rumble slips through the ban phase, you expect somebody to pick it up. And Xiaoxu going to grab that one. It's something that he hasn't played so much of, three games of it so far, and he's had relatively good success on it. But as soon as you pick up the Rumble, the other side of that coin is going to be the Varus. These are some of the top 2 picks that are very rarely actually allowed through into games, and it's something I really do want to see JiaQi play, because I think it is one of his best pickups. It's just one of the best pickups in the meta in general.
Instantly locked it alongside Wukong. Top Esports, they are going to look really good around first item breakpoints. As soon as you see Varus and Wukong, that second and third dragon fight get a lot riskier for JDG, but this is a pick I'd really like to see. 75% win rate, highest win rate left for Gala is the Sivir, who actually lanes pretty darn well into Varus.
Absolutely does, and it's just one of those pickups that really works with the overall style of play from JDG. They like to pair it up alongside a very roam-heavy mid laner, something like the Taliyah or the Ryze potentially, so that you can go and get involved alongside your Sivir, make things happen for them. At the same time, though, you are very much leaning towards that later game scaling once again, something that didn't work out for you in the previous game. So can you smooth that curve off a little bit? I'd like to see a more aggressive jungle pick.
Might be locked in right now, and I think this fits the bill. Nocturne still available, and JDG snapped that right up. Aggressive jungle Bloxer, JDG have got you.
Yeah, I mean, that was the most aggressive one left available, and I do love that they have slammed that. It really does just smooth out the curve for the game. You've now got something to play around early on for the level 6, and then you've got your late game scaling coming through from your Sivir. And the joys of the Rumble is that with his current power in the meta, he's good the entire game. There's no point at which this champion really begins to fall off. There's a cat on my screen. I'm very happy about that. I'm also happy to see Creme pick up his Ryze. It's a champion that he's, again, looked pretty good on. Not picked it up so much. He's not played it anywhere near as much as HongQ has, but I like the takeaway specifically. Having the heavy roaming mid laner alongside your Sivir really helps, so you've taken that away.
Yeah, now having Ryze available to make some plays out of mid lane as well, Realm Warp can really change the course of a fight, and Creme can threaten so many angles in the same way as 369 was doing last game, just with a well-placed Realm Warp in a team fight that'll force Gala to reposition. A Nivea takeaway, really just going to be targeted up against a Ryze matchup and something that HongQ is a little bit more comfortable on, but I like where JDG are focusing right now, making sure that top lane doesn't really have any autonomy into a Rumble that should be powerful.
Yeah, you don't want your top lane matchup to be something hyper-aggressive that you actually have to go and play around overly. You want the Rumble to be able to be in a strong spot overall. I wonder if the Renekton might be something that you may potentially look at. The lane matchup isn't particularly good, but it works really well alongside the teamfight look for TES. Otherwise, I mean, there's always the very aggressive options. Zhen still remains on the board. It's something these players have been looking towards more and more recently, as I feel like players are figuring out this champion.
Yeah, and definitely can do pretty well into Rumble. But as you say, it is a matter of how comfortable 369 actually is on it. Gonna wait and find out as Rakan gets locked in. So top lane counter pick has been available this whole time, but they are really saving it on Top Esports. Instead, gonna let the Nautilus move into Rakan. So actually a favorable pickup in terms of matchup for JDG here.
Oh, okay, I like that. I really like that. We were talking about what you can do with the mid lane, and, well, it's not going to be heavy roaming, but it is just going to be super aggressive, and also into the Wukong, into the Rakan. That miasma is going to be so difficult to deal with. A real nope button that you have now unlocked for yourself. The amount of shred damage you have as well is going to be massive. For TES, you need something tanky in the top lane to just round the composition out. They are going to go towards the Cassante. You don't look like you like that very much.
I just don't love that we save counter pick for Cassante. You could have just You could have picked this at any time. Cassante is such a nothing matchup into the Rumble. It's the most common matchup. It's one of the most common matchups in the world across all divisions of League of Legends right now. Cassante into Rumble is just slam dunk. But we save it all the way for counter pick when we've now let that affect our bot lane as well. Fengyue got a weaker matchup into Vampire as a result of it, and I don't know. You're right. This does round out the composition. Yes, it's tanky. Yes, it's nice for top esports, and it's probably not the focus. But from a drafting perspective, I think we could have done a little better.
It could have certainly been far more interesting, but it does round out what they are looking to do, and especially into a JDG composition that is really aggressive. I mean, I feel like we have flipped the script of the previous game straight on its head. This is now very much going to be a JDG with an aggressive composition where you're trying to get things going early on through your Nocturne, and then transition it into a later game where your Sivir really comes online, where your Cassiopeia can rip through people. I mean, your Cassiopeia can begin to rip through people pretty early on, so can your Rumble. This is a really aggressive composition overall. You're kind of just waiting until a little bit later when Gala gets online fully with his Sivir.
Yeah, there's not an incredible amount outside of the what am I looking for? Nautilus that you have in terms of really super hard CC that is coming in. But what you do have on the side of JDG is a composition that's incredibly difficult to get on top of. You may not be able to start a fight instantly in your favor, but you can kite back like nobody's business, and having to walk through an equalizer and boomerang blades, that is tough. We'll see if that is the answer for JDG in Game 2.
Alrighty, let's jump on into this one. Remembering the stakes here, TES winning this matchup gives them their best shot of being able to make it into the top 4. Lose? There's no way. If you win here, you're still reliant on other teams from making wins, making losses. If Weibo win, you're still locked out, but at least you've got a chance. For JDG, there's a lot more that needs to happen for them to move up in seeding. They're still locked into the top 4, but still an incredibly important matchup for both of these teams, and with very different compositions than what we saw in game number 1.
I'm really loving this right now because no matter who wins, I know that I win. I'm going to feel really good if top esports are able to convert this into another victory because of how unlikely that seemed at the start of the day. And by the same token, if JDG can answer back and give us a series with this composition as well, man, things are going to look good. Right now, the 369 Xiaoxu matchup working pretty darn well as level 2 is hit by 369, and unfortunately that turns into a really rough time for Xiaoxu, who does not lose a whole lot of minions for it, but does get bullied.
Yeah, he's going to have a little bit taken away from him, but should overall be fine. With these junglers starting towards the top side of the map, we could potentially see them influencing onto the bottom lane, but I would be surprised. I don't think this is quite the level of explosivity in the bottom lane that we could potentially have seen in the previous game. For right now, you're just going to get the expected level of push as Gala, and for the most part, you expect Gala kind of just to sit by himself in the bottom lane, absorbing as much gold as possible, trying to get himself to those item breakpoints, which should unlock Vampire to go and play across the rest of the map, because mid lane is very gankable, top lane very gankable as well. If he's unlocked on the map, that's going to be a big problem for TES.
We'll see how much they're able to make sure that Vampire gets to impact the map, as right now junglers are finishing up their first clears and could look to gank a lane. Nobody particularly overextended outside of the JDG bot side, who just now is going to lay down a little bit of vision. Skirmish could happen over the Scuttle Crab as well, and JDG have first roam, so NaiYou will move up towards the mid lane and drive by HongQ into the top side Scuttle.
Not going to be any surprises right here. NaiYou is going to just move through mid lane. He does go for a little bit of damage. Why not? Gets a little bit of extra mana out of HongQ as well. But JunJia doesn't look like he wants to just instantly concede this one. You're right about the skirmish, just wrong side of the map.
But odd to see JunJia stepping up so far for this, but it is a 2v2 and Fear is going to land. JunJia flashes over the wall onto NaiYou and ends up picking up first blood for his mid laner as the poison from HongQ ticks away.
Oh, I mean, at that point, Creme had pretty much entirely run himself out of mana. HongQ now keeps bullying onto him, and the second that Noxious Blast landed from HongQ, that was completely over. Those Twin Fangs early on does such a ridiculous amount of damage.
Super, super nice opener for a Cassiopeia as well. first blood into a Rise matchup. We already know that Cassiopeia is going to scale monstrously, but a nice early game as well is certainly going to make them feel a lot better about it. And HongQ, off to a great start, should make JDG feel a lot more comfortable.
And it's not just HongQ right here. I mean, JunJia manages to get that double scuttle off as well. It makes the map a lot harder to play for TES. It gives you that extra little bit of gold and level on towards that first upgraded smite, and getting yourself towards that level 6, that critical point for a Nocturne, where you can start really trying to impact onto the map. JunJia are going to be very, very happy with the way that this early game has played out so far.
Classic mid laners sticking around with low health, low mana, and NaiYou really wants to answer back. Creme flashes away, but HongQ will be finished off a little bit too greedy, even with his early lead on Cassiopeia.
As much as we were talking about how it was a good early set of plays for JDG, yeah, sticking around a little bit too far, not respecting the fact that, well, I mean, what else were you really going to be doing in that situation? The Wukong doesn't have any more camps to be playing to. NaiYou really needs to find somewhere to get some gold going, and so mid lane was really going to be the obvious spot. HongQ not really been known so much for his over-aggression and getting caught in lane, so that is a little bit worrying for JDG, but shouldn't to impact the game too much.
Xiaoxu gets the tower plate and doesn't die for it. Already, top lane looking a little bit more stable this game.
That was completely baffling. I'm going to look back at that play after we're done and really try to get into the mind of 369. Why? For what reason? Hey, I respect
a Netflix
it.
show about it. If you're able to connect with that kind of mindset, I think you've unlocked something.
True. Very, very true. So it is going to be this first Drake started up right here by JDG. They've got themselves push going on in the bot lane, so very unlikely you can try to compete onto this one, especially with NaiYou heading into the top lane at the moment. An early Drake stacking could be really impactful here for JDG. You've got yourself a composition that wants to be playing aggressive early on, has a good scaling into the late game, so having the Drake stacking in your favor, allowing you to control the tempo of the game going forwards, will be really good for them if they can keep it up, obviously. It's just going to be the first Drake for the moment.
Yeah, especially keeping in mind that one item spikes and level 6 spikes for both teams are really strong, but top esports, especially around the combination of Wukong and Varus, do have an incredible amount of teamfight potential that they can use around second and third dragon. So JDG having access to the first one just sets them up really well. Gala avoids a huge amount of damage with a spell shield, and that is just a fantastic trade for JDG bot side as a result.
They haven't not had pressure down in the bottom lane this entire game, and don't expect that to turn around for quite a while. So long as you do keep Vampire down in the bottom side of the map, I actually don't think it's the end of the world right here for JiaQi and Fengyue. You don't want Vampire roaming around the rest of the map, and because the Varus is so strong at farming, you are still able to keep yourself up in terms of the CS pretty much. It's not too bad.
Definitely a Sivir moment, though, when you're constantly being shoved in the bot side. Unfortunately, change the corruption, go wide. The JiaQi expending that cooldown, not the worst thing in the world. Fishes for something, but realistically, with Dragon up in 4 minutes, he'll have it back for that, and it's very clear, based on that cooldown expenditure, that he wasn't planning to rotate up for the grubs anyway.
No, it doesn't look like either of these bot lanes are particularly interested in heading up towards the top side of the map. 30 seconds until those grubs do spawn. The level 6s have been ticked now for the junglers. JunJia actually got himself the level 7. He's really been able to accelerate himself ahead through this early game. So now the next question is going to be, when does that Paranoia get popped and where does it go? Because whenever I watch a Nocturne on my screen, it feels like that first Paranoia really dictates how the rest of the game goes. It's a long cooldown and it's a massive part of your kit. If you hit it and you get a kill or at least expend a flash or something out of someone, it's all good. If you miss that first Paranoia, it can put you so far behind.
Really look out for supports roaming up as well, because JDG have to be aware of that. First ult being as impactful as it is for any Nocturne, you are going to want as much in the area to move that play in your favor as possible, and Vampire showing up the mid lane is a great indicator of exactly that. He's moved up no level 6 as opposed to Fengyue's level 6, so a little bit of a stronger team fighter now in the Rakan, but that's not going to impact JDG's game plan too much. They do start off the Void Grubs, planning to at least grab one before top esports move up for the subsequent 2. They have the numbers advantage here, and as we said, the level advantage.
I think they still do want to fight for this one, potentially. You've got multiple members roaming along, although you are going to have the Cassante joining that bit quicker. Okay, yeah. Just the slightly faster rotation out of 369 because he had the shove means there's no real way as JDG to compete for that one. They are going to grab themselves a single one of the grubs, so at least it isn't going to be all three. But the big part of that is with the supports roaming away, all of a sudden Gala loses that pressure he's been enjoying throughout the entirety of this game so far. And it does just give a little bit of extra CS over to JiaQi.
We can see how quickly that matchup turns as well. It's been gold leads all the way across the board for JDG up until that very same moment. Paranoia, however, immediately unleashed onto the bot side, will be interrupted by the level 6 from Fengyue, but that does not stop his AD carry from going down. Kill collected by JunJia, and first Paranoia has gone pretty well, Bloxer.
It has indeed. That is brilliant news for JunJia and exactly what you want to see as a JDG fan. I really like the timing of that as well. You know that Gala's getting pushed in the second that you don't have Vampire in the area, and you know that you've got a couple of seconds where JiaQi's trying to retreat back where you can go in, and through that darkness as well, Fengyue trying his best to save his ADC, just cannot see where it is he needs to be.
Xiaoxu did not have access to equalizer then, so 369, as much as he wanted to convert onto a kill, wasn't able to contend with simply the fancy feat out of a Rumble. HongQ pretty confident in the matchup up against Creme as well, knowing that he's got backup on the way in the form of JunJia should he need it, who's just rotated through the mid lane. However, focus really has to be towards bot side, dragon spawning in under a minute.
And look at the items right here. That's a really fast rower complete for HongQ. He's going to be getting that stacked all the way up to 10 very, very quickly. I mean, I think that's one of the fastest rowers that I've seen in a while. Obviously, did get himself that first blood gold, but even beyond that, to be able to farm yourself up to that point, very, very impressive from him. And we'll see how much that is going to help him later on into the game. You need to get to that 2-item break to really be as effective as possible. Rower, Seraphs, and then you can just rip through people.
You can tell the solo laners are dialed in by JDG right now. 113 and 115 CS respectively. They are, or were, in the next 7 seconds, I'll be using the past tense, above par for CS numbers in a game, especially at the professional level where you want to be hitting at least 10 CS a minute. And above that, just a bonus. Just a big old bonus. JunJia does have Paranoia back though, and everybody from top has to respect that.
The boss side of the map, though, very, very lit up for TES. They've got themselves quite a few deep wards. JDG going to try to spot a couple of those out, push a few of those away, and without too many teleports from the top side, you're not so worried about going for this play. It is going to be contested, though. You do have NaiYou running his way down. Creme as well has got himself... Sorry, just used the ulti to get back to the lane, actually, so isn't going to be able to teleport himself in from here.
Xiaoxu has teleport, 369 does not. Engage happens with Vampire on the bot side, and unfortunately, Miasma costs Fengyue most of his HP. Creme walks into the river, but is unable to stop the dragon from going down. Huge ultimate from Cassiopeia. HongQ almost deleting the jungler entirely, but JunJia commits into the backside and immediately is going to be answered back. It is 1-for-1 with a dragon going to JDG. Creme trying to play backline, but Boomerang Blade almost finishes off Fengyue. 1 HP and will go down to Gala, but Creme answers back with the help of JiaQi, taking down HongQ. Gala's running for the hills, does not have a whole lot of cooldowns left and no spell shield left to save him. Top Esports, they may lose the dragon, but they are collecting members of JDG one by one.
Vampire looked like he was going to go for a little bit of a save onto his ADC. Nope. Flashes straight over the wall and will use a final dredge line to be able to get himself out from that play. The kill score ends up 4-for-4 and the Drake does go over to JDG, so it will be a victory for them overall. But what a messy team fight, and this is just a bad decision right here from JunJia. Vampire starts it off very well, as you highlighted. The miasma so frustrating. It's one of the best parts of a very good kit in the Cassiopeia in general. This, though, from JunJia. Why? Play with your team. If he plays with his team right here, you get yourself that first initial kill onto the enemy jungler. You can turn straight back around and kill Creme as well. And then you can maybe try to play onto JiaQi and Fengyue. He decides to go for glory right there, straight onto JiaQi, and it just doesn't work out. He barely does any damage to him.
Got a similar problem that happens with Vampire as well, walking into the choke point where both Varus and Ryze are very happy to deal with you. There is so much extra damage coming out of Ryze because of the constant procs of spell flux that he's getting. And it's an awkward position for JDG, but they did get the dragon, so not all is lost.
Oh, NaiYou just about going to be able to take his own blue buff back away. I do hope that JDG can learn from the mispositioning error of that previous team fight, because it's not like they have the same composition they had in the previous game. You have yourself a Cassiopeia and a Sivir. You want standard front to back. You need to buy space for those carries, otherwise they just die and they won't be able to do the damage they need to. Just running off into the backline as JunJia as Vampire, it works when you're looking for picks, but in team fights that's not going to fly, so they need to clean that one up. Still, now looking forward a minute until the Herald is going to spawn, and for the minute, TES once again have good vision control on the top side of the map.
JDG will get to clear this bottom side out, leaving JunJia with nothing to focus on but the Rift Herald. You want to see some resets coming in as well, setting up a little bit of vision around the area. HongQ's been left to side lane, and up against 369 should feel pretty confident doing so, as Cassiopeia is so incredibly fast now that she can get boots.
Snake with boots. Hey, it literally won the game for Weibo last time they played up against JDG, so you know what? Cool change. Move things around. I do really like the Swifties look whenever you go that way as well. Just so much extra movement speed if you want that side of things. Now, TES, they've got themselves control over this Herald pit, but at the same time, with Paranoia up and available, you can always get in as JunJia.
Shoes on the other foot this time. 369 does have teleport to join the fight should he wish to. Top Esports won the 4v4 last time, now equalizing the numbers once again. Xiaoxu's got a pretty impressive flank right now, but out go the lights and inside the pit. Unfortunately, JunJia does not get the better end of that trade, loses the Rift Herald and loses his life as he tries to dive onto the back line. Well, JDG's back line have to run away, turn tail from the Rise ultimate. Realm Warp really turning that fight even further in the favor of Top Esports.
And what a breath of fresh air this series has been for Creme. We've been highlighting how he's had himself a pretty dang rough time of it so far this split, but he's been looking way, way better. He had a good Orianna performance in the first game, and this Rise that hasn't been one of his most impressive champions previously, looking so very good right here. Again, it just feels like a level of over-aggression out of JDG and a split fight that you really can't afford to go for. This is JunJia twice now in these team fights, not making it work on this champion, and you gotta think, whenever you've got yourself the Nocturne, the pick potential is the big thing. Team fight's much trickier, and so far he just hasn't been able to find it.
I'm gonna check something. So I don't have the win-loss results memorized as much as I'd love to leave everybody to believe that I do. I wonder how often he wins on Nocturne, because the ultimates that we've seen out of JunJia so far have not been indicating a great level of coordination out of JDG with this champion. Even right now, moving up towards the top side, he may be able to collect one. 369 extremely low, and JunJia will actually find another kill. No Paranoia used, however, they will lose Dragon for it.
This season, he has been 50-50, 1 win, 1 loss on this Nocturne, and he has shown once again right here, on the picks he's really good, and in the team fights just hasn't been able to make it work anywhere near as well. Still, it looks like it should actually still be this top lane tower going down as that first brick, even through the Rift Herald, is gonna go down, and that's really nice right here from JDG. That extra influx of gold, 400 gold for that first tower, is really good for them, considering that they didn't have the Rift Herald to help out.
And around last Dragon fight, we also noted that Rumble, while he had teleport, did not choose to join the fight. Xiaoxu has been on an island in top lane, and that has got to pay off at some point. We are really going to be looking at equalizer cooldowns when JDG and TES end up in the same fights at the same times, because that is your biggest lead as JDG is on a Rumble who just has the single item right now, Leandries plus the boots, but that ultimate has to be turning team fights.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have got to be finding those big game-changing ultis right here if you want any chance of being able to pull on through. Right now, I mean, this is a pretty aggressive look again out of TES, just constantly stepping up, pushing their vision as far forward as possible. This is a big part of why it's been hard for JunJia to be able to play out a lot of these situations. He's constantly on vision, and it's just buying a lot of extra space right here for TES.
We are in a bit of a neutral state once again, as no objectives up for the next minute and 30 seconds when we will finally have the Baron online, and even then, sort of a fake objective for the first few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I do love that it's back to spawning at 20 minutes, it's like it was previously. Actual 20-minute Baron takes were exceedingly rare and take a very specific set of circumstances and a usually horribly lost team fight from your opposition to really go and look towards. But it's just to split your focus a little bit. You do have to be cognizant of the fact that, hey, especially right here as TES, JDG can rip through this one. I mean, they will have one of the fastest Baron takes you could possibly imagine. Anytime there's a Cassiopeia on your team, you will just shred through that objective. So they have to be constantly cognizant of the fact that, yeah, it could be taken from right under your nose, and that would be devastating.
Expending the spell shield early and having to burn the cleanse as well. Some nice chains of corruption by JiaQi to pick up some critical cooldown, some critical safety from Gala in the mid lane. Quick engage onto 369 is going to net a full 0 damage onto the top laner for top esports. And TES continue shoving in the mid wave. They'd really like to unlock the mid lane for themselves, and they already have the health advantage in their towers.
Absolutely they do, but it is going to be very tough. This is one of the best things about having the Sivir, even during the earlier stages of the game where the Sivir isn't dealing as much damage to the opposing champions. The wave clear is still going to be massive. Still, with as many people moving onto the mid lane as there were, Creme is going to be able to grab this tower on the top side of the map, and that does expand this gold lead out to about 1.5k for TES. It's not as much as you would really want at this point in the game. You'd prefer to be up by about 3,000 to really feel secure. It is still a good job. We've been talking about how TES have struggled with early gold leads, and they've managed to establish one here.
Critical indicator for them throughout the season. Unfortunately, 369 just really not having a good time, and as this game goes on, going to continue to have a worse one up against HongQ. Does open up a win condition for JDG. If they're able to get enough side lane pressure, we have seen that convert into some incredible things for teams across the LPL. And it could be JDG that leverage that in this game alone. Xiaoxu up against Creme in the side lane as well, not going as poorly for him, especially as his top laner will join. No hard CC from this duo, however, leads to a nice realm warp and escape from Creme.
And this is the big problem as well with this JDG composition. The only bits of real CC that they have is the Miasma and whatever Vampire can do. And it's not no CC, but it is pretty tricky to constantly go for these plays without anybody to be able to lock people down. Plenty of damage available, and if you're able to layer a lot of these together, it can be massive damage for your team fights, but it is just some very hard to execute composition right here out of JDG. And TES, just walking away from this one, they're going to be more than happy with the way that this game has gone so far.
They've done such a great job of contesting for vision in the bot side jungle that this dragon almost feels like a foregone conclusion. TES have been setting up for it for the past 4 minutes, and it is incredibly difficult for JDG to step into their bot side jungle, especially with their mid lane tower constantly under threat. Paranoia has just come off cooldown again. JunJia has been throwing out chains of corruption on cooldown himself and has about, well, 5 seconds left on that.
And I mean, he can just keep on pulling that one through, looking, fishing, seeing if you can find yourself that potential pick, and if you ever do manage to land it onto one of those key members, just about going to be able to get away with his spell shield intact. That could be big going on forwards, as we have a look towards the Drake, and it's already going to be gone.
JDG do spot that. They know there's nothing they can do about it now. Unfortunately, it's their job to disengage. Nothing else to be gotten in this fight. Once top esports have the gold advantage and have the dragon, there is no point in trying to brute force the issue.
No, absolutely not, but you just lose this objective very easily. You're potentially going to give over all 4 of these Ocean Drakes, which would be a massive boon to a champion like the Cassante, who could just use that all the way through. They're even able to step up right here and take this mid lane tower, expanding their gold lead out 2,500 gold at this point. And it does very much feel like TES are on the brink of making this a 2-0.
Another on cooldown chains of corruption by JiaQi. He is proactively even, using his ult just to create space in the long run for the team, using it for chunks, using it to burn cooldowns. He is not saving this for specific team fights or setups or picks. It is about pressure on the Varus, and you can really tell JiaQi understands his role as the ADC in this game. It is not going to be a huge team fight difference maker if JDG end up finding a fight, because JDG are going to chew through a Varus once they're on top of him. It's about making sure that team fight never happens, because JDG can't step up.
Exactly. If you get yourself into just a straight sit and hit fight, that is where JDG is going to be able to pop off. But TES, so far, they've done a great job of avoiding that. And Creme, we've got to keep giving him his flowers. Was looking pretty bad previously. Now looking for a potential Realm Warp play right here onto Xiaoxu. I think Xiaoxu has recognized that something is afoot. Spidey senses are tingling. He is just going to step back. A good decision right there.
Somebody is a minimap enjoyer. This guy plays League of Legends. And it's never been a better time to have your eyes on that, as Baron is becoming a more realistic possibility. You already talked about JDG and their opportunity to burn the Baron, but you lose a top laner at 24 minutes into the game, and Baron still becomes quite a risky proposition, especially with the cross-map ability that top esports have.
Exactly, you can't just go and burn it because the Realm Warp can bring people over nice and quickly. Vampire trying to step up right here. Gala too being very aggressive right now. He's right on the brink of completing that third item, and oh, Vampire, oh no, no!
There goes a Change the Corruption, and there goes a Vampire. Steps one moment too close to TES. JiaQi will collect the second kill, but 369 just wanted to turn this into more. JDG have already been forced out of the river. They might even be forced out of a Baron, as with 2 picks going the way of top esports, they feel confident starting this objective up.
No jungler available right here for JDG, and this may well be them throwing the game away. Only the damage carry still available, and they can step up, but this Baron should just be gone. Equalizer to try steal it, doesn't manage.
Doesn't even do that much damage
No.
to top esports, as once again they collect the objective, and there is no point in continuing that fight for JDG.
And we came into today, right, talking about how TES were scrambling, were failing to get things going, didn't have map presence, weren't able to make moves around the map, and we came into today talking about whether or not Gala should be on your list for All-Pro, talking about the pros and cons, and we did really see it in game number 1, where he was trying to do too much for his team, and we talked about how he's so good when he's got his team in a good spot and he can play alongside them, he can elevate his team, but when Vampire is missing dredge lines, pulling himself into the back line, when all of a sudden your Nocturne goes flying in alongside too, it doesn't feel like he can overcome the deficits of his squad right now. The case for the All-Pro Gala feels like it has taken a real hit here today.
And I'm really encouraging you guys, if you got opinions on this, go to the Discord, send us your votes. Even better, send us your votes and your reasoning as well, because there are a lot of arguments for a lot of ADCs. Gala, just the most recent one in the conversation. In goes another team fight, and out goes another Chains of Corruption, stopping JunJia in his tracks. JiaQi playing these team fights with incredible spacing. That is a huge petrifying gaze that does a huge amount of nothing into a losing team fight. JDG managed to step away with their lives, but that's not what they came in looking for.
No, and that's going to be 4 flashes now off of the board, 3 of them just blown in that one play, and with these Baron-empowered cannon minions wrecking these towers, TES, they are knocking on the door of the base right now.
And looking for their series win. A win here, like we said, keeps the hopes alive for TES of making it into the knockout stage. They will need a little bit more luck, but for right now, fate is being taken into their own hands, or especially into 369's, as he zones everybody off of the inhibitor and stays above half health while doing it. Kazante moment for him, and perhaps a winning moment for top esports as they look for another fight. Out goes the hook, connecting with 369, the tankiest member of top, as JiaQi gets time alone with Xiaoxu, and ultimately actually ends up being taken down by the Paranoia. Big turnaround by JDG. They've still got both Nexus towers up. Another petrifying gaze goes out. HongQ gets flashed on, and TES, they want to finish this game right now. Creme still alive, hitting the last Nexus tower, and JunJia does not have the damage to deal with it. Popped into the GA while his support goes down, while JunJia emerges into a nightmare for JDG. It will be top esports that take game 2 and take the series.
That was not what anybody was expecting coming on into today. As we jumped into game number 1, you saw it on your screens. The LPL viewers believed that JDG were going to be able to win this one. We liked the compositions that JDG had got for themselves. We thought they had some exciting parts to them. But Top Esports, they felt like a different beast here today. This felt like the Top Esports that we have seen flashes of throughout this split, and if this is another flash, it will be disappointing. But if this is the beginning of them getting things together, hey, better late than never, and going into the playoffs is exactly the time at which you want to be coming online.
That is true. We did mention that Top Esports do not secure their position today, however. This is going to be a series that results in them just watching another series and hoping that IG take down Weibo, which will be coming up tomorrow. First series tomorrow. That is going to be one to watch if you are a Top Esports fan.
I'm pretty sure tomorrow is the last day that we have of the regular season in general, and that is going to be rounding everything out. With that loss, JDG, they locked themselves out of getting the top 1 or 2 spots. They could never have gotten top 1, but they could potentially have jumped BLG. BLG now are going to be locked into that second place. It will be AL, BLG, JDG, and then maybe it could be Top Esports as that 4th place team. They're going to be watching the Weibo series, seeing what it is that Weibo can show for themselves, but it's always good to do what you can do, and then hey, Weibo IG, I genuinely don't know which way that one is going to go. It should be Weibo favored, but they are by no means the complete dominant force that we have maybe been seeing them build towards the later half of this split.
Yeah, we're seeing a couple moments of weakness out of Weibo, and our Group Ascend standings will be finalized tomorrow as what you note, is our final day of the regular split. Let's talk a little bit more about these games, though, because when you think about a team coming into form, you mentioned it, Top Esports better late than never, 50-50 as to whether that's true. We'll see how it works out for them, maybe in the Knights Road, maybe in the knockout stage, but we definitely saw a very different Top Esports than we saw at the beginning of the split. This went 2-0 JDG's way at the start, and at the very end, it goes 2-0 to TES.
And we showed you the highlights, the lowlights of that previous game from Creme and how he just had a horrible time of it, and that was replicable across pretty much the entirety of this split. But in this game, and across the course of just 1 or 2 matches here or there throughout this split, he's looked really good, and this was really, really nice from him. It wasn't the biggest, flashiest plays, a couple of big shockwaves here and there, some good damage coming out from the Rise, but it was just consistent. He wasn't getting caught on the side lane in this second game at all. He only got caught on the side lane once, which is a major improvement from what we saw previously. If Creme's beginning to fire on all cylinders, I thought that JiaQi as well played himself a very good game, especially on this virus, but in both of the games as well. Then all of a sudden your carries are suddenly doing what you needed them to do. 369 was already playing really well. Fengyue, one of the most exciting players I think we've got in the LPL at the moment, popping off too. This is a team that others are going to really have to look out for.
My lord, and JiaQi really stepping up this game as well. Last game we were talking about Fengyue, but it is the bot lanes that have made a huge difference in today's games for Top Esports and JDG. In this second game, the Varus positioning played such a huge factor. Wherever JiaQi was positioned, Top Esports were winning. And that is really difficult into a Nocturne composition. But JDG were not able to execute, were not able to dive in the same way as Top Esports, on the other hand, were able to dive coming out of game 1.
And part of it, you kind of have to look towards the compositions that JDG had for themselves, where they were trying to play towards the later stages in that first game, and they did kind of get there, but they just made a couple of odd map decisions. The macro wasn't really there, and they throw it all away, and it was just good team fighting coming out of TES. And in the second game, JunJia, as much as he was really good with the picks on this Nocturne, could not figure out a way to make it work for the team fighting, and you're in a situation where you just don't have that non-committal CC. You are fully reliant on Vampire landing himself either a dredge line or that depth charge to be able to start the fight off, and unfortunately Vampire, he returned to a little bit of the early day WE form. He launches that dredge line into a wall, completely baits JunJia in, loses the team, the Baron, the Drake, and everything just snowballed out of control from there. The Dross, I thought, were a bit odd. I liked some of the aggression, I liked some of the synergies, but it didn't work overall. And especially in this second game, it didn't feel like they were playing to their win conditions.
I have to agree, and that's what's really standing out to me here. We're talking about Vampire having to go in, having to make plays happen, when realistically, that's not what the JDG composition was built for. Yes, it is their only way to initiate, but we talked about how with things like Sivir and Cassiopeia, this is a team that's incredibly difficult to get on top of. But they really had an identity crisis when it came to whether they wanted to play around JunJia's win condition, diving, making plays on Nocturne, or whether they wanted to play to their hyper carries win condition of kiting back. And unfortunately, they did neither very well.
No, you ended up in a rough situation where you've got someone flying in and someone flying back out again, and I mean, it's hard, right? You don't want to be playing backwards as a Nocturne. You don't want to be playing backwards as a Nautilus. You want to be going and getting your opponents, but that's not quite how the composition worked overall. For JDG, as we've been saying, right, it doesn't knock them out of top 4. They still do manage to avoid that Knight's Road, and they at least will be in that knockout stage. They've now got themselves about a week to be able to sit back, analyze what they did wrong, and come back stronger. But you would have really liked to have rounded out your regular season with a win.
Yeah, this one was a little bit difficult for JDG, but still high hopes for the roster. And as we talked about, this whole Gala situation that we started today off with was a real focal point that we kept touching on. I also want to throw some question marks towards HongQ as we approach the knockout stage. I've been really high on HongQ during the regular season. This was, in Game 1, I mean, a very quiet game for him because he wasn't in the team fights, and that's not his fault. Shout out Fengyue. Game 2, that was not the case. We actually saw some really nice petrifying gazes come out of Cassiopeia, but that in itself, not nearly enough. And I'd like to see HongQ have a little